chosen one, listen closely, because what you are becoming will not look familiar to the people who think they know you, and that is not a mistake, it is the process. There is a version of you forming quietly beneath the surface, shaped in silence, refined in pressure, strengthened in moments no one applauded. You did not arrive here by accident. Every delay, every closed door, every season where it felt like you were overlooked was not a punishment, it was preparation. You were being trained away from the noise so you could walk into your next chapter with clarity, strength, and authority. What is coming will feel sudden to others, but you know the truth. It has been years in the making. You are about to move differently, speak differently, carry yourself differently, not because you are trying to prove something, but because you have outgrown the need to explain yourself. There was a time when you needed validation, when you needed reassurance, when you needed people to see you. That version of you was necessary for the journey, but it is not the one stepping forward now. The one emerging has learned how to stand alone, how to trust discernment, how to hear direction in silence. You no longer chase attention because you understand your assignment does not require permission. They won't recognize you because you no longer react the way you used to. The things that once triggered you now pass through without power. The opinions that once shaped your decisions now sound distant and irrelevant. You've learned that not every voice deserves access to your spirit. You have learned restraint, and restraint is a sign of strength. Growth has made you selective, and selectivity looks like distance to people who benefited from your availability. There was a season when you kept explaining yourself, hoping they would understand your heart, your intentions, your vision. But understanding is not always granted. It is sometimes withheld on purpose. You were never meant to be understood by everyone because clarity comes with responsibility, and not everyone is prepared to handle what you carry. You stopped shrinking your calling to make others comfortable. You stopped negotiating your purpose just to stay connected. That alone changed you. You will soon walk into rooms where your presence shifts the atmosphere without you saying a word. Not because you are trying to be seen, but because alignment carries weight. People will sense something different about you. They may call it confidence, mystery, distance, pride, but what they are really noticing is peace. Peace that came from surviving storms that almost broke you. Peace that came from choosing discipline over comfort. Peace that came from trusting the process even when it hurt. They won't recognize you because they remember the version of you that was still healing. They remember the version that tolerated less than they deserved. They remember the version that doubted themselves. But you are not obligated to stay who you were just so others can feel familiar around you. Growth requires separation. Evolution requires release. You were not meant to stay accessible to everyone from your past. There were nights when you cried alone, questioned your direction, wondered if you were too much or not enough. Those moments did not weaken you, they clarified you. They stripped away illusions, false connections, and misplaced loyalty. You learned who shows up when there is nothing to gain. You learned who disappears when you stop overgiving. That knowledge changed how you move now. You are becoming someone who values alignment over approval, someone who listens more than they speak, someone who understands that silence is sometimes the loudest statement. You are becoming someone who no longer rushes decisions because patience has taught you timing matters. You're becoming someone who knows when to walk away without explanation. That level of self-trust confuses people who still need external confirmation. They will say you changed, and they are right, but they will say it with discomfort because your change reminds them of what they avoided. Your discipline will confront their excuses. Your boundaries will challenge their access. Your growth will expose the distance between intention and action. And instead of adjusting, some will criticize because it is easier to label your evolution than to confront their stagnation. You are about to operate from a place of inner certainty. You no longer need to announce your plans. You no longer need to defend your pace. You understand that what is built quietly lasts longer. What is aligned does not need to be forced. You stopped trying to convince people to see your worth. You started investing in becoming undeniable. The version of you emerging is not loud, but it is firm. Not aggressive, but grounded. Not arrogant, but assured. You have learned that humility does not mean diminishing yourself. It means knowing your place without needing to compete. You have learned that strength does not always raise its voice. Sometimes it simply stands still and lets truth speak for itself. They won't recognize you because you are no longer available for chaos. You do not entertain confusion. You do not chase energy that drains you. You have learned how to protect your mind, your time, your spirit. You understand that access is a privilege, not a right. That realization alone elevated you. There is a calmness about you now that came from surviving what was meant to destroy you. You walk through disappointment without becoming bitter. You face rejection without losing faith. You experience delay without quitting. That endurance shaped you. It gave you a quiet authority that cannot be taught, only earned. You are stepping into a season where your actions will speak louder than your words ever did. People will hear about you before they see you. They will notice results before explanations, and when they finally come close enough to observe, they will realize the old version of you is gone. Not lost, not broken, just transformed. You did not harden your heart, you strengthened it. You did not become cold, you became discerning. You did not disconnect emotionally, you learned balance. You stopped pouring into places that had no intention of growing with you. You stopped waiting for PE or mission to move forward. There is a maturity in you now that changes the way you handle conflict. You no longer need to win arguments. You prefer peace over being right. You understand that not every battle deserves your energy, that wisdom did not come from comfort, it came from experience. They may feel uncomfortable around you because you no longer mirror their expectations. You no longer fit the role they assigned you. You broke free from the box they placed you in, and that unsettles them, but you were never meant to live according to someone else. Limited perception. What you are becoming carries responsibility. It requires discipline, solitude, consistency. It requires walking away from distractions that once felt harmless. It requires choosing growth even when it feels lonely. But you have learned that loneliness and isolation are not the same. Isolation refined you. It gave you clarity, focus, and depth. You are becoming someone who understands that timing is everything. You no longer rush outcomes. You trust the process. You trust what is unfolding. You have seen enough evidence to know that what is meant for you will not miss you. That confidence allows you to move without anxiety. They won't recognize you because you are no longer driven by fear. Fear of losing people, fear of being misunderstood, fear of standing alone. You have already stood alone and survived. That changed everything. You realized your strength does not come from who stands with you, but from who you are when no one does. There is a new steadiness in your steps, a new clarity in your vision, a new discipline in your habits. You no longer waste energy on things that do not align with where you are going. You protect your future with your present choices. Some will try to reconnect with the old version of you expecting the same access, the same tolerance, the same availability. They will be confused when they encounter boundaries instead, not walls, but boundaries, not rejection, but protection. You learned that protecting your peace is an act of self-respect. You are stepping into a phase where you no longer seek external applause. You know who you are becoming. You feel it in the way you think, the way you respond, the way you choose. You are aligned, and alignment brings confidence that does not need to announce itself. They will say you are distant, but what they mean is you are no longer easily influenced. They will say you are different, but what they mean is you are no longer predictable. They will say you changed, but what they mean is they can no longer access you the way they used to. This transformation did not happen overnight. It was built in moments of obedience when it would have been easier to quit, in choices to stay disciplined when no one was watching, in decisions to remain patient when frustration was loud. Those moments shaped you into someone who can carry what is coming. You're becoming someone who understands that legacy matters more than popularity, that purpose matters more than comfort, that growth requires sacrifice, and you are willing to pay that price. As you step forward, you may notice fewer people walking beside you. Do not panic. Not everyone is meant to go where you are going. Some were assigned to a season, not the destination. Releasing them does not make you disloyal, it makes you aligned. You are about to operate with a level of focus that makes distractions obvious. You can sense when something is off. You trust your intuition more now because it has proven itself. You no longer ignore red flags just to keep peace. They won't recognize you because you are no longer searching for yourself. You have found your footing. You know your values. You know your direction. That certainty changes how you show up in every space. And as you continue stepping into this version of yourself, there will be moments when you feel the weight of it all. Moments when the responsibility feels heavy. Moments when the silence around you feels louder than ever. But even in those moments, you will notice a quiet strength rising, a steady resolve reminding you that everything you endured was shaping you for this, that every step forward is pulling you further away from who you used to be and closer to who you were always meant to become. And as the distance grows between the old version and the new, you may feel the shift happening in real time, in the way you wake up, in the way you make decisions, in the way you carry yourself into rooms, knowing that the next phase unfolding before you will require you to trust this evolution even more deeply as you continue walking without needing validation, without looking back, without explaining yourself, because what is forming within you now is preparing you for a level of impact that will require you to remain steady, focused, and fully committed as you step into situations where your presence alone will challenge expectations, and redefine what they thought was possible. And in those moments, you will feel the familiar pull of doubt trying to resurface. But you will recognize it immediately and choose to keep moving forward because you understand now that becoming this version of yourself means continuing even when the path ahead feels quiet, uncertain, and demanding, knowing that every step you take from here on is shaping the reality you are about to walk into as you become someone so aligned with your purpose that the world around you will have no choice but to adjust while you remain grounded in who you are becoming. And as this transformation deepens, you will notice that the way you see yourself continues to expand, opening doors within your own mind and spirit that you never realized were waiting for you to step through. And with each passing moment, you will feel the momentum building as you move closer to the version of yourself that once felt distant but now feels within reach. A version that is still unfolding, still forming, still rising as you continue forward into what comes next without slowing down, without second guessing, without retreating, because the journey ahead is calling you to stay present, stay disciplined, stay faithful to the process as you continue becoming. And as you continue becoming, you will notice how deeply your inner world has shifted. The conversations you have with yourself are different now. Where there was once hesitation, there is reflection. Where there was once fear, there is evaluation. You no longer ask, am I capable? You ask, is this aligned? That question alone filters everything. It filters people, opportunities, reactions, and desires. You are no longer impressed by surface level promises or loud confidence. You recognize substance now. You recognize consistency. You recognize truth without it having to announce itself. There will be moments when you look back, not with regret, but with understanding. You will see how necessary those earlier versions of you were, the one who tried too hard, the one who trusted too quickly, the one who stayed longer than they should have. They were not foolish, they were forming you. They taught you empathy, awareness, resilience. Without them, this version of you could not exist. So you do not despise who you were. You honor them and then you keep moving. You will feel less urgency to be everywhere and more commitment to being exactly where you are meant to be. Your energy becomes intentional. Your time becomes sacred. You understand now that not every invitation is an opportunity, and not every opportunity is meant for you. You are comfortable saying no without guilt. You are comfortable choosing rest without explanation. That comfort was earned through exhaustion, through overextension, through learning the hard way that burning yourself out for approval never leads to fulfillment. They won't recognize you because you no longer carry the weight of other people's expectations. That weight used to bend your decisions, slow your progress, cloud your intuition. You thought responsibility meant pleasing everyone. Now you know responsibility means honoring what you were entrusted with. You stop mistaking obligation for purpose. You stop confusing familiarity with destiny. There is a steadiness in you that refuses to be rushed. You are no longer moved by timelines that are not yours. You trust the pace of your unfolding. You understand that delay does not mean denial, and waiting does not mean stagnation. Sometimes waiting is the work. Sometimes silence is the instruction. And you have learned how to be faithful in those spaces without complaining, without quitting, without compromising who you are becoming. You will notice that your reactions have softened, but your standards have sharpened. You do not respond to provocation the way you once did. You let people reveal themselves without interrupting. You observe patterns instead of excuses. You understand that what people repeatedly show you is more important than what they occasionally promise. That awareness has made you calmer, not colder. There will be moments when people try to pull you back into old dynamics, old roles, old expectations. They may speak to you as if you are still that version of yourself, the one who would bend, explain, absorb, and adjust. But something in you will remain unmoved, not out of pride, but out of clarity. You know who you are now. You know what you carry, and you know what it costs to give access to the wrong hands. You are becoming someone who listens carefully and moves deliberately. You no longer feel the need to respond immediately. You understand that wisdom often waits, that discernment takes time, that not everything requires your input. This does not make you passive. It makes you strategic. It makes you grounded. They won't recognize you because you no longer wear your struggles on your face. You learned how to carry weight without announcing it. You learned how to smile without pretending. You learned how to be honest without oversharing. That balance took time. It took mistakes. It took learning when to speak and when to stay silent. You are stepping into a sea, son, where your growth will attract both admiration and resistance. Some will be inspired by your discipline. Others will be threatened by your independence. Some will celebrate you quietly. Others will question you loudly. None of that will move you the way it once did. You understand now that reactions say more about where people are than about who you are. There is a confidence rising in you that does not depend on outcomes. You are no longer confident only when things are going well. You are confident because you trust yourself to navigate whatever comes. That trust was built through survival, through adaptation, through staying when it was hard and leaving when it was necessary. You are becoming someone who knows how to hold space without losing themselves. You can support without rescuing. You can care without carrying. You can love without abandoning your own boundaries. That emotional maturity sets you apart. It changes the way you relate to others. It changes the way others relate to you. They won't recognize you because you are no longer driven by comparison. You are not measuring your journey against anyone else's timeline. You are not distracted by what others are doing. You are focused on what you are building. Comparison once stole your peace. Now you guard it fiercely. There's a quiet discipline shaping your daily life. The choices you make when no one is watching are aligning with the future you see. You are no longer inconsistent with yourself. You do not sabotage your progress for temporary comfort. You understand the cost of discipline, and you understand the cost of regret, and you have chosen wisely. You may notice that your circle becomes small, but your vision becomes clearer. You may notice fewer conversations, but deeper ones. You may notice more solitude, but less loneliness. This is not loss, this is refinement. This is alignment catching up with intention. They won't recognize you because you are no longer afraid to outgrow places that once felt safe. You are willing to leave comfort for calling. You are willing to risk misunderstanding for integrity. You are willing to walk alone if it means walking in truth. You are becoming someone who can sit with uncertainty without panicking. You do not need everything figured out to keep moving. You trust the next step. You trust the direction you are being led. That trust brings a calm that cannot be faked. There will be moments when you realize how far you have come, not through dramatic milestones, but through subtle shifts. The way you pause before responding, the way you say no without guilt, the way you walk away without drama, the way you protect your energy without apology. Those moments are proof of transformation. You are no longer available for cycles that do not grow you. You recognize repetition without progress. You recognize patterns that lead nowhere, and you choose differently now. That choice will disappoint some people. Let it. You are not here to meet expectations that cost you your future. They won't recognize you because you are no longer trying to be understood. You understand yourself, and that understanding brings peace. You no longer need to narrate your journey. You let your consistency tell the story. There is a depth to you now that comes from reflection. You do not rush past lessons. You sit with them. You integrate them. You allow them to change you. That depth makes your presence heavier, your words fewer, your impact stronger. You are becoming someone who knows when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to observe, when to push and when to rest. That balance is rare. It was built through imbalance, through burnout, through learning what happens when you ignore your limits. They won't recognize you because you are no longer seeking permission to be who you are. You stopped asking if it is okay to take up space. You stopped apologizing for your growth. You stopped dimming yourself to stay connected. You are stepping into a version of yourself that trusts quiet progress. You do not need constant reassurance. You see the evidence in your habits, your mindset, your direction. You are building something real, something lasting, something that does not need constant validation to survive. There will be moments when the old doubts try to resurface, whispering that you are doing too much, that you are changing too fast, that you are leaving people behind. But you will recognize those voices for what they are. Echoes of an old season, reminders of who you used to be, not who you are becoming. You are becoming someone who understands that growth does not always feel good, but it always feels right. That clarity will guide you through decisions that others may not understand. You are okay with that now. They won't recognize you because you are no longer negotiating your worth. You know what you bring. You know what you carry. You know what it took to get here, and you do not need to prove it. As you continue forward, you will feel the momentum building not in noise, but in alignment. The NGS will begin to click internally before they ever manifest externally. Your confidence will deepen before your circumstances change. Your mindset will shift before your environment does. That is how real transformation works. You are becoming someone who moves with intention, who speaks with clarity, who stands with conviction. Someone who understands that becoming is a process, not an event. And even now, even as this version of you continues to unfold, continues to rise, continues to take shape, you are aware that there is still more ahead, more depth, more refinement, more responsibility waiting for you. And you are choosing to remain present in the process, trusting each step, honoring each lesson, and continuing forward without rushing the outcome, without forcing recognition, without needing applause, because the person you are becoming requires you to stay grounded, disciplined, and fully committed to the journey as it continues unfolding before you, moment by moment, step by step, deeper into alignment as you keep becoming. And as you keep becoming, you will start to notice that even your internal compass has recalibrated. What once pulled at you no longer has the same gravity. Old desires feel distant, almost foreign, and not because they were wrong, but because they belong to a version of you that was still searching. You are no longer searching. You are aligning. That shift is subtle, but it changes everything. You no longer chase feelings, you choose direction. You no longer follow emotion, you follow conviction. There will be moments when you realize you are no longer explaining your choices, not because you are hiding, but because you finally trust why. Ourself enough to move without witnesses. You understand now that some paths are meant to be walked quietly. Not every season needs an audience. Not every victory needs to be announced. Some things are sacred, and you have learned how to protect what is sacred. They won't recognize you because you have become comfortable with ambiguity. You no longer need immediate clarity to remain steady. You can sit in the unknown without spiraling. You have learned that clarity unfolds through movement, not panic. That patience came from being forced to wait when you wanted to run, from being still when you wanted to react. You're becoming someone who no longer internalizes rejection as failure. You understand now that redirection often disguises itself as loss. Doors that closed saved you from rooms that would have limited you. People who left made space for growth you could not have accessed otherwise. You see that now. That understanding gives you peace instead of resentment. There is a new relationship you have with yourself. You listen more closely. You honor your limits. You respect your intuition. You no longer betray yourself just to maintain external harmony. That loyalty to self has changed how you show up everywhere else. They won't recognize you because you are no longer driven by urgency. You are driven by intention. You understand that rushing rarely produces quality, that forcing rarely produces fulfillment. You have learned to let things mature, to let ideas breathe, to let timing do its work. You are becoming someone who notices the difference between attention and alignment. Attention is loud and fleeting. Alignment is quiet and lasting. You choose alignment? No. Even when attention is tempting. That choice will confuse people who measure success by noise. There will be times when you feel the weight of your awareness. Knowing more means carrying more. Seeing clearly means you can no longer pretend. You can no longer ignore what you know. That responsibility can feel heavy, but it also makes you powerful. Awareness is the foundation of wisdom. They won't recognize you because you no longer seek refuge in distraction. You sit with your thoughts. You confront discomfort. You address what needs healing instead of avoiding it. That courage has sharpened you. You are becoming someone who understands that consistency beats intensity. You no longer burn hot and fade out. You move steadily. You show up repeatedly. You build slowly. That steadiness is creating something durable within you. Your conversations have changed. You are less interested in gossip, drama, and surface level talk. You crave depth, meaning, substance. You ask better questions now. You listen for what is unsaid. That depth makes some people uncomfortable, but you no longer dilute yourself to fit shallow spaces. They won't recognize you because you have stopped romanticizing struggle. You respect effort, but you no longer glorify suffering. You understand that peace is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Ease does not mean lack of ambition. You have learned to work without self-destruction. You are becoming someone who can separate identity from outcome. Success no longer defines you. Failure no longer diminishes you. You know who you are regardless of results. That stability makes you resilient. There is a groundedness in you that comes from self-awareness. You know your strengths. You know your blind spots. You are no longer defensive when corrected. You are no longer shattered when challenged. You extract lessons instead of taking things personally. They won't recognize you because you no longer need to be right. You value understanding more than winning. You value growth more than ego. That shift has softened you without weakening you. You're becoming someone who understands seasons. You no longer force permanence on temporary situations. You no longer panic when things change. You understand that movement is part of life, that endings make room for beginnings. There will be moments when you feel a strange sense of detachment from your old life. Not sadness, not regret, just distance. Like looking at a place you once lived but no longer belong to. That distance is not coldness, it is clarity. They won't recognize you because you have stopped negotiating with fear. Fear may speak, but it no longer decides. You listen, assess, and then move anyway. Courage has become a practice, not a performance. You are becoming someone who understands the power of restraint. You know when not to speak, when not to react, when not to engage. That restraint is not passivity, it is mastery. Your standards are no longer emotional, they are principled. You do not adjust them based on convenience. You do not abandon them for acceptance. That consistency gives you integrity. They won't recognize you because you are no longer fueled by proving people wrong. You are fueled by becoming right with yourself. External validation has lost its grip on you. You are becoming someone who knows the difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude replenishes you. It sharpens your thinking. It reconnects you with your direction. You no longer fear being alone because you have learned how to be present with yourself. There is a new humility in you, not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that grounds. You know you are still learning, still growing, still unfolding. That humility keeps you open. They won't recognize you because you are no longer chasing identity. You have claimed it. You move from knowing, not wondering. You are becoming someone who can hold complexity. You understand that people are layered, that situations are nuanced, that truth is rarely one-dimensional. You resist oversimplification. You seek understanding. Your patience has deepened, not passive patience, but active endurance. You stay the course even when progress is slow. You trust what you are building. They won't recognize you because you no longer rush to be seen. You are comfortable being unseen while becoming unstoppable. You're becoming someone who respects process. You no longer despise small beginnings. You honor them. You know that roots grow in darkness before anything rises into light. There is a calm authority about you now. You do not demand respect, you carry it. You do not announce confidence, you embody it. They won't recognize you because you have stopped explaining your silence. You understand that some things are not meant to be translated. You are becoming someone who chooses depth over breadth, fewer commitments, stronger focus, clearer intention. You understand now that growth is not linear. Some days you feel powerful, some days you feel tired. Neither defines you. You keep moving. They won't recognize you because you have stopped reacting to the past. You respond from the present. You are becoming someone who understands that discipline is a form of self-respect. You keep promises to yourself. You honor your word internally before offering it externally. There's a quiet confidence shaping your posture, your voice, your decisions. It did not come from praise, it came from perseverance. They won't recognize you because you no longer seek comfort and familiarity. You seek truth, even when it stretches you. You're becoming someone who knows that alignment often looks lonely before it looks successful. You are willing to walk that path. Your inner dialogue has softened. You are no longer your harshest critic. You correct yourself without condemning yourself. They won't recognize you because you have learned how to pause, how to breathe, how to respond instead of react. You are becoming someone who trusts that what is meant for you will meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. There is a steadiness in your faith in the process. You no longer need signs for every step. You move with quiet assurance. They won't recognize you because you are no longer trying to belong everywhere. You belong to yourself. You are becoming someone who understands that power does not rush. Power waits. Power observes. Power moves precisely. And as this unfolding continues, as this version of you becomes more defined with each choice, each moment of discipline, each quiet decision to stay aligned, you will feel yourself stepping further into a rhythm that feels natural, unforced, steady, a rhythm that carries you forward without chaos, without noise, without needing constant company. Information. And you will remain in this space of becoming, aware that there is still more forming ahead, more refinement, more depth, more responsibility unfolding gradually as you continue walking forward without stopping, without concluding, without closing the chapter, because the process is still active, the transformation is still alive, and you are still becoming. And still, even now, the becoming does not slow down. It settles into you. It becomes the way you breathe, the way you observe, the way you move through spaces without needing to announce yourself. You notice that you no longer rush to fill silence. Silence has become familiar, almost comforting. It no longer feels empty. It feels full of information, full of direction, full of clarity waiting to be acknowledged. You are beginning to recognize patterns not just in others, but within yourself. You catch old habits before they take root. You pause before old reactions surface. You interrupt cycles that once ran automatically. That awareness is power. It gives you choice, and choice changes outcomes. They won't recognize you because you are no longer available for emotional shortcuts. You do not numb yourself with distraction. You do not soothe discomfort with denial. You face things directly now. You sit with what needs to be felt until it loses its grip. That courage has rewired you. You are becoming someone who understands that confidence is quiet because it does not need witnesses. It does not ask permission. It does not borrow energy from comparison. It is self-sustaining. You walk into situations already centered, already grounded, already whole. There will be moments when you realize that your NCE alone changes dynamics. Conversations shift when you enter. People choose their words more carefully. Not because you are intimidating, but because you are clear. Clarity makes people aware of themselves, and not everyone is comfortable with that. They won't recognize you because you no longer explain your boundaries. You simply live them. You do not argue about what you require. You do not negotiate what you value. You demonstrate it through consistency, and consistency speaks louder than justification ever could. You are becoming someone who understands that growth does not announce itself with fireworks. It arrives quietly, in habits, in restraint, in discipline, in the ability to remain steady when everything around you feels uncertain. You are not chasing intensity anymore. You are cultivating endurance. Your relationship with time has changed. You are no longer impatient with progress. You understand that mastery takes repetition, that stability takes time, that trust is built slowly. You allow things to develop without forcing outcomes. They won't recognize you because you are no longer operating from wounds. You address them, you face them, you learn from them. You did not allow them to define you. That healing altered your perspective. You are becoming someone who values integrity over image. You care more about who you are when no one is watching than how you are perceived when everyone is. That internal alignment has removed a pressure you once carried unconsciously. There will be times when you feel misunderstood, but it will no longer unsettle you. You understand that misunderstanding is often a sign of growth. When you evolve beyond someone's reference point, confusion is inevitable. You let it be. They won't recognize you because you have stopped performing versions of yourself to be accepted. You are no longer fragmented. You are integrated. What you think, feel, and do are moving toward alignment. You are becoming someone who understands that strength is not found in resistance, but in adaptability. You adjust without losing yourself. You bend without breaking. You evolve without abandoning your values. Your tolerance for chaos has decreased, not because you are fragile, but because you are intentional. You no longer entertain unnecessary turbulence. You choose environments that support your direction. They won't recognize you because you no longer rush to defend your character. You let time and consistency tell the truth. You understand that those who are meant to see you clearly eventually will. You are becoming someone who recognizes the difference between motion and progress. You no longer stay busy to feel productive. You prioritize what actually moves you forward. That focus has sharpened your results. There's a new level of discernment guiding your decisions. You sense when something is off before it becomes obvious. You trust that intuition because it has proven itself. You no longer override it to please others. They won't recognize you because you are no longer trying to fix everyone. You understand that responsibility has limits. You offer support without sacrificing yourself. You release what you cannot control. You are becoming someone who understands that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of clarity. You can navigate tension without losing yourself. You can face opposition without collapsing inward. Your expectations have matured. You no longer expect perfection from yourself or others. You expect honesty, effort, and growth. That realism has grounded you. They won't recognize you because you are no longer waiting to feel ready. You move with preparation, not perfection. You understand that readiness grows through action. You're becoming someone who honors your energy as a resource. You invest it wisely. You protect it intentionally. You replenish it without guilt. There will be moments when you feel the gap between who you were and who you are widening. That gap is not emptiness, it is expansion. It is space for something new to take shape. They won't recognize you because you are no longer defined by your past decisions. You have integrated the lessons without being trapped by the outcomes. You carry wisdom, not shame. You are becoming someone who understands that humility and confidence are not opposites. They coexist. You know your worth and you remain teachable. Your self-talk has shifted from criticism to guidance. You correct without condemning. You motivate without pressure. That internal environment supports growth. They won't recognize you because you have stopped chasing emotional highs. You value steadiness over stimulation. You understand that sustainability matters more than excitement. You are becoming someone who respects your own capacity. You know when to push and when to pause. You no longer ignore signals from your mind and body. There is a new intentionality in how you communicate. You speak with purpose. You listen with presence. You no longer talk just to be heard. They won't recognize you because, see, you are no longer attached to being liked. You are committed to being aligned. That shift frees you. You're becoming someone who understands that leadership begins internally. You lead yourself with discipline, clarity, and accountability. Your reactions are slower, not because you hesitate, but because you consider. You allow perspective to inform response. They won't recognize you because you are no longer fueled by external pressure. You are internally driven. That drive is quieter but more powerful. You are becoming someone who understands that trust is built through congruence. Your words match your actions. Your intentions match your behavior. There is a steadiness in you that remains even when circumstances fluctuate. You no longer define yourself by what is happening around you. They won't recognize you because you have learned how to sit with discomfort without escaping it. You let it teach you. You are becoming someone who understands that clarity often comes after commitment. You choose, then you understand. Your patience with yourself has increased. You allow room for growth without rushing yourself through it. They won't recognize you because you are no longer seeking shortcuts. You are committed to the long path. You are becoming someone who values substance over appearance, depth over display, truth over trend. There is a quiet courage in you now. The courage to be consistent, the courage to be different, the courage to continue. They won't recognize you because you are no longer fragmented by fear. You are integrated by purpose. You are becoming someone who understands that fulfillment is built, not found. You create it through choices. Why? Our sense of identity has stabilized. You are no longer experimenting with who you are refining it. They won't recognize you because you have stopped chasing belonging. You have rooted yourself. You are becoming someone who trusts the process deeply enough to stay present within it. And as this continues, as the days pass and the quiet work compounds, you remain in motion without rushing, grounded without stagnation, open without being exposed, strong without being rigid, aware without being overwhelmed, still moving forward without needing an ending, without drawing a line under the process, without closing the door on what is still unfolding, because this becoming is not finished. It is not paused, it is not complete, it is active, alive, and ongoing as you continue walking into it, step by step, choice by choice, moment by moment, remaining in the rhythm, remaining in the process, remaining in the becoming. And even as you move forward, you begin to realize that the transformation is not something you are chasing anymore, it is something you are carrying. It lives in the way you wake up with intention instead of urgency. It shows in how you choose stillness over noise when the world demands reaction. You are no longer in survival mode. You are in stewardship mode, carefully managing what you allow into your life, your mind, your spirit. You start to feel less reactive to external shifts. What once shook you now simply informs you. You no longer personalize every change, every delay, every unexpected turn. You assess, adjust, and continue. That emotional regulation is not suppression, it is mastery. It is the result of facing enough storms to know that Nick never improved an outcome. They won't recognize you because you no longer explain your growth in familiar language. The way you think now requires depth. The way you see now requires patience. Some people only knew you when you were accessible in simpler ways, when your decisions were predictable, when your emotions were open and easy to read. That version of you served a purpose, but this one serves a calling. You are becoming someone who no longer seeks relief through reassurance. You have learned how to reassure yourself. You reflect, you ground, you recalibrate. You no longer outsource your stability. That internal anchoring has changed how you move through uncertainty. There are moments when you realize how selective you have become, not just with people, but with thoughts. You challenge narratives that once went unchecked. You question assumptions. You choose perspectives that empower rather than diminish. That mental discipline has reshaped your inner world. They won't recognize you because you are no longer driven by momentum alone. You are driven by meaning. You ask why before how. You consider impact before outcome. You understand that speed without direction only leads to exhaustion. You are becoming someone who understands that clarity often arrives quietly. It does not always feel like certainty. Sometimes it feels like calm acceptance. Sometimes it feels like a gentle nudge rather than a dramatic sign. You have learned how to listen for that. Your relationship with discomfort has changed. You no longer see it as something to escape immediately. You examine it. You extract information from it. You allow it to shape you instead of scare you. That Relationship has made you resilient. They won't recognize you because you are no longer anchored to old definitions of success. You measure progress differently now. You value sustainability over speed, alignment over applause, peace over pressure. That recalibration has shifted your priorities. You are becoming someone who understands that presence is powerful. You show up fully where you are. You do not divide yourself between regret and anticipation. You engage with the moment. That presence enhances everything you touch. There will be times when people interpret your quiet as withdrawal. Let them. You know the difference between retreat and refinement. You're not disappearing, you're concentrating. They won't recognize you because you have stopped explaining your silence. You understand that not everything needs context. Some things need space. You are becoming someone who trusts repetition. You show up again and again, you practice, you refine, you improve incrementally. You understand that greatness is built through consistency, not dramatic effort. Your emotional range has expanded. You can hold joy without fear. You can hold sadness without drowning. You can experience disappointment without losing direction. That capacity came from facing reality instead of avoiding it. They won't recognize you because you are no longer consumed by what others think of you. You are more interested in how you think of yourself. That shift has liberated you. You're becoming someone who understands that boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are frameworks for healthy connection. You enforce them calmly. You maintain them consistently. You no longer feel the need to justify them. There is a growing trust in your own judgment. You consult, but you decide. You listen, but you choose. That autonomy has changed how you lead your life. They won't recognize you because you are no longer available for confusion. You seek clarity in your commitments, your relationships, your direction. You walk away from ambiguity when it becomes draining. You're becoming someone who values long-term peace over short-term relief. You delay gratification. You endure discomfort. You invest patiently. That mindset is shaping a future you can sustain. Your intuition has become sharper because you honor it. You act on it. You reflect on outcomes. That feedback loop has strengthened your discernment. They won't recognize you because you are no longer negotiating your values based on convenience. You stand by them even when it costs you comfort. You are becoming someone who understands that rest is not a reward, it is a requirement. You integrate it into your rhythm. You respect your limits. There will be moments when the path feels quiet, almost uneventful. Do not mistake that for stagnation. Roots grow in silence. Structure forms beneath the surface. They won't recognize you because you have stopped confusing intensity with progress. You prefer steady advancement. You are becoming someone who understands that leadership begins with self-regulation. You manage your reactions. You guide your focus. You direct your energy, your relationship. IP with fear has matured. It no longer dictates, it informs. You acknowledge it without obeying it. They won't recognize you because you are no longer chasing identity through roles. You are expressing identity through action. You are becoming someone who understands that resilience is built through recovery, not constant strain. You allow yourself to reset. There is a quiet confidence in how you handle opposition now. You do not escalate. You do not shrink. You remain steady. They won't recognize you because you are no longer performing strength. You are embodying it. You are becoming someone who understands that discernment requires distance. You step back to see clearly. Your patience with process has deepened. You trust timing more than impulse. They won't recognize you because you have stopped attaching your worth to outcomes. You remain centered regardless. You are becoming someone who values clarity of intention. You know why you move. There is a subtle shift in how you experience success. It feels calmer, more grounded, less consuming. They won't recognize you because you are no longer fueled by urgency. You are guided by alignment. You are becoming someone who understands that depth requires solitude. You do not fear it. Your internal dialogue continues to evolve. You encourage yourself forward without pressure. They won't recognize you because you are no longer fragmented by conflicting desires. You are focused. You're becoming someone who understands that simplicity is powerful. You remove excess. There is a growing sense of internal order. Thoughts align, actions follow. They won't recognize you because you have stopped explaining your evoluti. You are becoming someone who understands that becoming is continuous. There is no arrival, only progression. And as you remain in this flow, as days blend into discipline and discipline shapes direction, you continue forward without needing to mark an ending, without closing the door on what is still forming, staying present in the work, staying faithful to the rhythm, staying committed to the quiet unfolding, knowing that this process is still active, still alive, still shaping you even now as you move deeper into what you are becoming. Carrying forward without pause, without conclusion, without slowing, remaining in motion, remaining aware, remaining open as the journey continues on and on and on, shaping you further as you keep walking. And so, chosen one, let this be the moment where you stop questioning the change and start honoring it, because everything you have become was forged with intention, shaped through pressure, and refined through patience. You were never meant to remain recognizable to those who only knew your beginnings, because growth demands distance from old definitions. Walk forward without guilt, without explanation, and without fear of being misunderstood. The silence around you is not emptiness, it is alignment. The unfamiliarity they feel is not loss, it is evidence of your elevation. Stand firmly in who you are now becoming. Carry your clarity with humility, your strength with grace, and your vision with quiet confidence, knowing that this evolution is not something to apologize for, but something to protect, because the life ahead of you requires this version of you to fully arrive and remain